Hey everybody, so we wanted to welcome you to our third Coach's Corner. Today we're going to talk about the different types of coaching and why you should consider having coaching done.
All right, so you got two different types of coaching. You can have your programming, which is where they basically give you a program, set you off on your own, let you go ahead and follow it. Sometimes they do video check-ins, other times they just do the basic programming, assuming that you know what you're doing already. The other one is your one-on-one type of coaching. So it'll be in person, me and you're doing the work, I'm coaching, that kind of thing. You can get some of the new hybrid type of coaching where they're going to give you the programming, which will tell you what to do, and then you may either get the one-on-one aspect, but more so like through a Zoom or some fancy application like that due to recent world events.
Well, are there times where people might have programming and one-on-one coaching with you?
Yep, absolutely.
So like, what would that look like?
So another hybrid theory is the programming, so you know what to do each day, and then I would work with you on your weaknesses. So say you really stink at bench.
I do.
I'd try to be there for at least one day, depending upon which day it was and which day worked out the best, just a different type of technique.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. So that sounds like it'd be the best thing for people to do when they're newer in the sport or they need to relearn technique.
Yep, yeah, you can need to relearn the technique. You can be new, old, it doesn't really matter. It's more what are you the most comfortable with. Usually eyes on is going to give you the best results.
That makes sense. So even with programming, do a lot of coaches do the programming where they do video reviews or anything like that?
A lot of them do, yep. It's usually a good option. The video review is usually a little bit more expensive, but that's because you're taking that extra time. You can get anywhere from 5 to 15 videos in one day. And if you're going to critique each one, then that's obviously going to take a little bit more time than just a quick cursory. Oh, yep, good. You're not swiping right the whole time.
Okay, so the programming then with the video review would be good for people who have been doing the sport for a little bit of time, but just want someone to check in. But even those that are newer, I've seen use that. So how would that be helpful?
A lot of it is it allows you to kind of learn as you're going. So you're not necessarily getting stopped every couple seconds. You're learning, okay, hey, this is what I'm doing. And then you kind of learn to basically see whether that works for you or not. Say you need help on a specific technique, then that one kind of comes into play a little bit, but it's a different thing overall.
Yeah. Cool. So on the mental skills side, we do something very similar where we either do one-on-one with people, which a lot of people get it confused and think it's more counseling, and that's just not the case. When I do mental skills coaching, usually an athlete will come to me and say something like, during competition, I get really nervous because I was injured with squats. Or they might say, I have some anxiety getting ready for competition and it's really starting to hinder my performance. So during that time, we make specific goals for those things. That way we can work past them and get some skills together that help them work through them so that their competition performance goes well. And then we can also do things like programming, like Ryan was talking about on the physical side, the same thing on the mental side, where we use a program here called Train Heroic. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. And I would do the same thing, identify your goals with you and then determine what skills you needed. And we would plug them into a training program for you. One of the other things that we've started doing on this side is complementing the physical and mental health training, where if somebody came and they wanted, some type of powerlifting or strongman programming with Ryan, and they also identified an issue with anxiety or confidence, motivation, whatever it might be, we would add that on into their programming as well through Train Heroic. So you might see your Emmy Upper day followed by, 10 minutes of visualization. So those are really helpful too, to work both of those skills together.
Oh, I agree.
So what are some reasons why somebody would want to do coaching?
So some of the reasons why you might want to do coaching is, say you're going to try a different training technique. If all you've ever done was sumo squats, you want to go to conventional sumo squat or deadlift. If you want to go to conventional style, which is closer, probably want to get a couple eyes on during that first initial point. Doing the video review would be good for that, as well as the one-on-one. If you want that quick, immediate feedback, the one-on-one would be the absolute best idea. Another reason for a coach is different types of training methods. There's so many that are out there. You've got your conjugate, you've got your fifth set, you've got your Texas strength or something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of different methods. Usually coaches will have a specialty or they know enough about something to throw a little bit of different at you, see what kind of sticks the best.
Yeah.
Another reason why is it takes the guesswork away. If I'm just feeling down and dumpy and not doing good in my own programming, somebody else can go ahead and take over it, and they've got their vision. They kind of push you along and exposes you to a different type of stimulus. I'm not going to coach somebody the same way you would, while you're not going to coach somebody the same way that somebody else would. So it gives you a little bit more experience. Ultimately, it keeps you accountable. If I'm just going off on my own, yeah, I've got enough of a drive to do it for myself because I want to do the best that I can. But on those days where you're just feeling dumpy and you're like, you know what, I'm just not going to push it today. You send that off to your coach, or your coach sees you doing that. He or she is not going to let that slide.
No. You know, something that made me think about, what if you have a newer person that wants to do online programming because they enjoy doing your type or a certain coach's type, but they feel uncomfortable with their technique? Would you recommend that they see somebody in their local area for technique work?
Yeah, absolutely. A coaching is going to be more of a guidance, right? The programming is just going to be setting that specific point that you want somebody to follow. So you're not always going to be a coach and a programmer, and vice versa. You're not always going to be a programmer and a coach. And especially if your coach is really, really good at programming and good in person, but say they live in California and you live over here in Florida, you're coast to coast. It's not going to work out that way. So find somebody that you respect, or find somebody that your coach respects, and work with them in person. We always try to keep a good working relationship with all sorts of different coaches, and we push our guys and girls off to other people sometimes as well, just so that they get that second set of eyes to kind of figure something out.
Well, that's about all that we have for today. As always, we appreciate any comments or input you have, any subjects that you want us to talk about. We would also appreciate it if you could subscribe to our YouTube page. After we get to 100, we can actually have our own custom URL, so we don't have youtube.com/abc1273, blah, whatever it is. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you again for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.